Okay, I hope I know my videos can be really boring sometimes, and they're not official, like Wall Street training or something like that. But, whatever. And I'm gonna make today a video that I probably should have made ages ago, or a discussion that I should have made ages ago. And that is, you can compute the debt to capital ratio, obviously, in a corporate model. And sometimes you would like the debt to capital ratio in your output model to be the same as some sort of target debt to capital ratio. All right? So, in order to do that, we could use, and in the past I've used the solver and a goal seek, and that frankly makes a mess of a model. Now, it should be a simple kind of dynamic goal seek function to do this. It shouldn't be complicated. It really shouldn't be complicated. But I have to admit something. I have a lot of jet lag, and last night I was swearing at my computer a whole lot. I didn't throw it, I didn't hit it, but I went kind of crazy. And the computer kept breaking, and I couldn't figure out exactly. It was a completely unstable result. So, a warning to you on this video. If it breaks again, I'm in a horrible mood, and I'm probably going to start swearing very, very loudly. All right, now let's just get this set up so you can kind of see the problem. I'm going to have to make the thing just a little smaller, and then we'll make it larger. I saw somebody else, have some kind of shortcut key. Why in the hell would you need a shortcut key to just make the screen larger and smaller? Whatever. Some people go crazy. Now, here's the cash flow statement. The income statement. Let's start with the profit and loss statement. The profit and loss statement, we have net income. Okay, now we have interest expense and taxes. And then we have a cash flow statement. And in the cash flow statement, because I've been struggling with this horrible problem that's really not a horrible problem at all, I put a buyback. Now, if we buy back shares, it's going to affect the rest of the cash flow statement down here. Now, this debt and cash that it affects could theoretically affect the interest income and the interest expense up here in the profit and loss statement, and therefore the earnings. And if it affected the earnings, then it would affect the taxes. The taxes would be affected up here, and we'd have kind of a difficult problem. But if we use opening balance on the cash balance, an opening balance on the cash balance, an opening balance on the debt balance, then we're not going to have a big problem at all. And suppose if I put a minimum cash balance in, it might get a little bit more complicated. But for now, I'm not putting a minimum cash balance in. I'm keeping it very simple just so you can see the technique. So what we have to do is kind of compute this thing. Now, what we could do is essentially make a goal seek. Compute this amount that then falls right into the equity issue in the balance sheet. And after you put it in the balance sheet, you'll get a computed debt to capital ratio. So you can kind of do a goal seek to make the difference between this and this zero. Redo the goal seek over and over again, which means you use the solver. Okay? I might even have some other video on that. But this time, we're going to use a a function, and the function again will not be so difficult because we have the opening balance, and in the opening balance the only things that are get affected are this. That affects the size of the debt and the size of the equity, and then we can go forward. Now in this function we're going to need the opening debt, opening equity, and the opening cash flow. We're also going to need the starting cash flow. And that's a kind of bad word, not a bad word, not like a swear word that I'm probably going to use in this video, but this is this cash flow just before we start the whole process. Okay, Shift Control R. You know, let's do something else too here. How about if we let's put the all the way down. Come on. You can see this is going to be a bad day. Why can't... Oh, come on. I want to go all the way down to the bottom of the damn sheet. Okay. And then let's just make a conditional formatting. Okay. And in the conditional formatting, we're going to always go to our special new rule, use a formula, and click on this this one, and we press the dollar signs around and around and around. F4. I'm pressing the F4 button, and let's put it equal true. So we don't really want to do this whole calculation when it's the which one do you want to use? This? How's that? This one? When it's the historic period. Okay. And the other thing, let's I should stop sighing so much in these videos too. I know I sigh like, this sucks so bad. If we press Shift Control C, you can see what the inputs are. Okay, so this is an input. It really shouldn't be there. It's a violation of all these official silly goddamn rules. And now let's make it larger. Okay, and now what we're going to do is compute the new equity. Now we really don't want to do that in the historic period, so let's start with just one single one. This is going to be a function, and it's going to be essentially a goal-seek function. And the goal-seek function is going to take this computed debt to capital and make it equal to the target. Now, how about we'll call it computed new equity. So let's go to the developer tab, and let's start making a function. And I've got some functions here. Now, let's put function space computed a new equity, and put it all the way down. Now, and somewhere, of course, we're going to need the computed new equity. Okay, equals, let's put 999. Now this is going to be a a dynamic goal seek. So we're going to go around and around. We're going to have some kind of for loop and we're going to try. Let's just call it new equity. No, I might have that defined something. Put equity, oops, equity issue equals start to finish step. That means it goes up by varying amounts increment. And the whole idea of this is to go around and around and make the increment less. So somewhere next we have a next equity issue. Okay, that's the other thing. And now what we do is we potentially stop this loop. And the stop to this loop is if now what we need to do is we're going to go from a really small debt to capital to a large debt to capital. So if debt to capital is we start to the small, and if it becomes hang on. We start with a really low amount of debt, a big negative debt. So that means that makes the debt to capital really high. So if the debt to capital is less than the target, put less than or equal target debt to capital, then we do some stuff. Okay, and the first thing we do is we say, well, we can first decide if it's so small, if the absolute value of the debt to capital minus the target debt to capital is less than some really small number, then we can do something else. Then we can get out of the whole function. And then we say, well, computed new equity is equal to the equity issue. And then we exit the function. And then we put an end if. Alright, so, and this should be computed new equity. Okay? And then now, if we, otherwise, we redefine the start and the end. Then the start is equal to the equity issue minus the increment, and finish is equal to equity issue. And those, you notice the equity issue is just this thing right up here. Now, once we do this, then we put we define a new increment is equal to the finish, which should be larger, I hope, minus, if the increment is positive, and let's make the increment positive, minus the start divided by some divisor. Now, here's the little trick that I've started to do. I'm going to make the divisor equal divisor plus some 10. That makes this smaller and smaller, and it'll converge. It'll converge to a tiny, tiny little number. Now, maybe 10 is too much, so, you know, I'm totally afraid of Excel breaking, and I don't think this is whatever caused Excel to break. Let's start with a really big divisor. Equals 5, okay? And then, so what we have to do then is we go to to restart. Some people have heard that, oh, this is really bad Excel form, programming form. And of course it's not. Bullshit. And then we put the target debt to capital here. Okay, so it's kind of this system where you start at the end and then you keep going backwards. Am I making this video? I am. Okay, it's only 15 minutes so far. You haven't wasted much of your life so far. I wonder what people, if you kind of turn it on and say, oh, this is going to be a sucko video, and then never get here anyway. Now the next thing we need is we have to compute the target debt to capital ratio. Okay. I think we've got this. So the debt to capital ratio is equal to the ending debt divided by the ending capital. Now I thought, oh my God, you know, if the ending capital better be not equal to 0. Okay, then we do this. If you really care about this, debt to capital equal 0.9 or something, I don't know. And then, so you can, just in case it does hit a 0, you can have something in there to make the test work. Okay? And that means we need the ending debt. So we keep on going backwards. Well, ending debt is equal to the opening debt plus the net debt increase. And the net debt increase is going to be computed, but we need to read in the opening debt. Now, then we can put the ending cap. Well, I should have put that ending cap is equal to ending debt plus ending equity. Okay, so we're ready to go with that one now. We need the ending equity. Ending equity is equal to opening equity. Now that means we need the opening equity. Okay. And then, but we better add the net income. I thought this was the problem. I think I can put net income minus dividends. Well, that's now if the dividends somehow are affected by the net income and all that, you might have to put a few more things in the file. So I'm keeping this really simple for now, but plus the equity issuances. That's the big issue. That's what we're going around to compute. Now, why don't I tab all of this, I guess. Okay. Now, we need to compute the, well, before we do this, we need to compute these, no, let's read in the net income and read in the dividends. In this case, again, I should be repeating this because it's a pretty important point that I've made a example with no dividends where the equity issue doesn't affect the dividends in this period, the income in this period, or anything else, because we've used an opening balance. Now we need to figure out the beginning start. I'm going to make the start equal, I'm going to make the opening capital equal the opening debt plus the opening equity. Now I'm going to make it really extreme and then make the start equal 0 minus the opening capital. So we make that's like an extremely negative debt to equity issuance, and when the equity issuance is that negative, it's going to make the equity like negative, which will make the debt really big relative to the equity, so it'll be a really, really small debt to capital ratio, and that's why we have, as the debt to capital ratio keeps going up. Now then we'll put the finish equals the opening capital as a positive, and then the increment is equal to the opening, the finish, which is a positive number, minus the start, which is a negative number, so that's a really big number, and we divide it by the divisor. And we should not be afraid that this, so we should hit this really fast, and then that won't be very close, so then we'll go back around the increment, make the divisor smaller, and keep going round and around. Now when you do this, I've just learned the hard way. Let's make a count equal 1. And then whenever we hit this kind of thing here, we better add S1, okay? In fact, if you never get there, you could, let's be even safer. Here, we need an end if here, of course. Now let's put count equal count plus 1, and we can put if count is greater, let's say 300, then we can do the same thing. Computed equity is equal to the where it is equity issue, and we exit the function, and then we put end if. No, whatever, it doesn't look like the tab is perfect, so what? Okay, and now we're just about finished, not quite. Okay, so we've got the hard part really done. Now what we have to do is just define the rest of these net income and dividends we've defined. We need the net debt increase, and the net debt increase is equal to the debt increase plus the debt minus the debt reduction. Now to get this, we need to get the cash flow, so I'm going to go up here and put net cash flow equals base cash flow plus equity issue. Okay, and that means up here we need one more thing, which is to get the base cash flow. Okay, and okay, and then we once we have the base cash flow, then if the net cash flow is less than 0, then, and now we can go back here and see what we do. So remember, if the cash flow is negative, then we need to add, we need to and it says, look, I couldn't spell cash reduction. Okay, debt reduction. So what we do is, if this cash is negative, we take it out of our balance. So then, and we don't do anything. This was what? If it was negative. Okay, I have to repeat this to myself. If it's negative, then debt reduction is equal to 0. And then the cash reduction is equal to worksheet function dot minimum. Now I put minimum and maximum together in here, and I believe you cannot do that. I believe that causes Excel to be unstable. I'm not absolutely convinced. Okay. And it's the minimum of the opening cash, which means we need the opening cash. Who cares about that? Okay. And it's the minimum cash, or if this is negative, the negative cash flow. Now, what that means is I'm going to define negative cash flow as equal to 0. I'm not using the min max as the 1 minus net cash flow. Okay, and then we put end if. Okay, and then we do the same kind of thing if the cash flow is positive. Okay, if the cash flow is greater than, how about greater than or equal to 0? Then the cash reduction is equal to 0, and we don't have any negative cash flow. And the debt reduction is equal to the minimum of the opening debt, or the just net cash flow. Okay, and then we can get a cash flow subtotal equals net cash flow, and then what we do is we add plus the cash reduction minus the debt reduction, and that's right here. Right here. Okay, and that's what this is. And then we can keep going. Now all we need to know is with the debt. So if the cash flow subtotal is less than 0, then we put the debt increase equals 0 minus the cash flow subtotal. We don't need a minimum or maximum or anything like that. Okay, So we have now we have the debt increase and the debt reduction. Okay? And here's what we need to do. And this is what I made a mistake in. And it took me hours and goddamn hours and hours and hours and hours, and I went completely crazy. I started screaming and I couldn't go to sleep. This just sucks. And I thought it's thinking about how disgustingly horrible my life was. You have to put debt reduction is equal to 0. And then you have to put cash reduction is equal to 0. And then you have to put debt increase is equal to 0. Because if you don't do that, it'll take the last go round. And if you're going between these things, it'll remember the last one and it won't put it back to 0. And everything will be confusing. And this took me ages to figure out. What an idiot I am. Okay? And that's basically it. So how long are we? We're at 30 minutes. It's not that bad, considering it took me a day at least to do. Now, let's try this, okay? So, I, you know, the first thing we better do is save the file, especially with these dynamic goal seeks, because it's very, very easy. It's Control S, save the file. I'm saving it again. So our computed new equity is, what is, I can't compute, computed new equity. And remember, what we do then is press Shift F3. Shift F3, and then we get the target debt to capital ratio. And then we get the opening debt. And the opening debt is, where's the opening debt? Come on, down here. It's right here. And then we have the opening equity. And I put the opening equity here. So it says what you do right here. And then the net income, I didn't put that here, so we'll go up and get that from the income statement. Okay, and then we put the dividends, and the dividends, you know, if the dividends, like I say, I guess if they're affected by the income, but the income isn't affected by the opening balance or anything else, I think that might be just okay. But this time I'm just going to leave them blank. And then we have this base cash flow, which I could take from here, but just to try to make things a little more clear, I put the base cash flow down here, and I called it starting cash flow. You remember how we did that. And the final thing we need is the opening cash. Remember, we needed that one. And that's all we need. And then the good news is there an answer. The bad news is it might be wrong, but at least you get an answer. If you get no answer here, you're going to get a value. Okay? Okay. And I'm going to save this, because it could blow up still. Now, let's just kind of think about this. So right now, our computed debt to capital is 38%, and we want 50%. So it is logical that we have a negative number. So what we do now is go up here, and where it says new equity issuance, we put an equal sign, and we go down and get the new equity issuance. Okay. Now, don't worry, I don't even look at it yet, because we also have to put this new equity issuance over here. And that's really bad news because we went way too far and something went wrong. And now the problems start. And I don't even want to look at it because we obviously have negative equity and we can't have we can't have it working because we have a more than this didn't work. Okay, so I've got to pause the video. Okay, I had as usual made some spelling mistakes, mainly spelling mistakes I suppose, so somebody could say, why in the hell don't you just define all the variables? But here, let's just review. If you care, we put this in. I think I had a spelling mistake on the target debt to capital. I put a little debug thing so we could check kind of how things are converging, if you want to do that. And now, the nice thing is that the computed debt to capital equals the target, and if we want to put 40 exactly. And here, just a minute. Okay, I seem to be getting interrupted. Sorry about that. Now, so the good news here is, let's say we, I don't know, the historic is 40%. Okay, we'll leave that. Then we'll make it 45% and 47%, and it all kind of works, and we can do this. So I hope you see the kind of advantage of having this. Now, if we have no dividends, we can take this equity and use this equity at some stock price to affect the number of shares, and just get an estimate of what the future value of your share is. Okay. Now, there's a little problem, of course, that you have to estimate the stock price, but I'm just checking here. I didn't really look at it. But, you know, it's all kind of working in the sense that, no, it's not. Oh, shit. See, here we had a problem. We couldn't converge. Hold on, let me just pause this and fix this. You know, actually, whatever. Yeah, let me pause it and see what's going on. Okay, this was an easy fix. All I had to do was add the opening cash here. And what happened is we didn't start with a big enough negative number. I suppose let's just look and see what happened. Equity had to be, we'd have to really start with a big negative number. So, and let's try the lowercase. Now I have a little bit of a difference here. Again, oh shit. Oh god. Okay, well, once again, we put the lowercase in the high case, and they seem to be, in this case, I'm looking at these two lines here, and they seem to be, okay. And I guess we have a tiny little bit of difference here. You know, if you adjust a little bit. Okay, it doesn't seem to Okay, so now we got an exact number. Okay, and I think I'm not finished with this exercise. I'm going to put this is the Kitty Hawk corporate model, excuse me for that noise. And we'll put this in the corporate model. Oops, I'm not online. It'll be in the corporate model section. Then we'll make some more exercises, and in these exercises we'll include some dividends, include some circular reference resolution at the same time. In fact, it's really just a natural extension of the circular reference. So you can say this is a lot more complicated when you have to resolve a circular reference. In fact, it's the circular reference resolution is the hard part. Adding equity and equity issuance is kind of a relatively minor part of the whole process, and in fact is easier almost once you have the rest of it built. So I think I'm going to stop this video now.